Hello everybody, my name is Denali and I am sick. Here's that video. I've been sick my entire life. I'm talking birth to now, and I am ready to share a little bit of what that experience has led me to. Also, I'm hooked up to a machine right now, so if you hear like anything, it's probably gonna be this guy. Can you hear it? So I was a very sick child. I was always getting weird things like pneumonia and bronchitis and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was diagnosed with asthma because I was breathing weird all the time, and I could never do endurance anything. Like with sports, I could never do it. I was always having stomach problems, and I was always having headaches, and I was always having body pain and stuff like that. And I would always go in to the doctor and have the same symptoms, and it would always be like, you just have a cold, or you probably just have a sinus infection, or you probably just have like gas. So it was always like it was an explanation, but I always knew it wasn't the right explanation. And it was weird because going to the doctor literally sometimes like 2 to 3 times a week, because I would just consistently get worse and I would consistently not be doing good, was so weird. I've always had something wrong with me. I've always been uncomfortable in some type of way, but I kind of thought that was normal because I don't know what normal feels like. And that's pretty much how I grew up, just always having a mystery of, am I just overreacting? Am I being dramatic? Is this something that I shouldn't be worried about? Is this something that my parents shouldn't be worried about? Should I go to a different doctor, but my doctors are doing amazing? It was always just a struggle to find an answer. And I can't imagine how that must have felt for my parents, just having me sick all the time, because, I mean, sometimes things were bad. Like, things were really bad. Things just started to progress, and things were getting worse and worse and worse, and I didn't realize it until I slowed down. A lot of you guys know that I danced for a very long time, since I was 12 till I was 19, 20, I forget, but it was a while. It was a good bit. So I did that for a long time. I don't know how I did that. I really don't. I always had trouble doing longer routines and longer sets and things like that. And I could never figure out why. Like, why was my body literally giving up after 2.5, 3 minutes? And I thought it was me. Like, maybe I'm overweight, maybe I need to do more training, but I could never do training because whenever I tried, I would just hurt so much, and I would struggle to breathe, and my heart rate would go up, and I would just feel like I'm about to pass out. But I went, I guess I'll try harder. So a lot of that time was, I'll try harder, I'll do better, I can do it, because I don't like to have that victim mentality. I guess that kind of did more damage, but it also kept me distracted, which now I'm learning that time of me being distracted and having something to do and something to work on actually kept me from feeling a lot of different things that I should have been feeling. I actually stopped because of a job that was full-time that would not let me do anything. And even though this was a full-time job, I'm on my feet for hours on end in heels. That's when I started to feel like I feel exactly the same way that I did when I was a kid. And that scared me a little bit. And I didn't want to face that fact, because I didn't want to go through all the different tests, like I've had so many different tests for so many different things. After I left that job and I went to full-time music, I had even more time to myself to just kind of feel what was going on with this. And I was still ignoring it for a very long time. But then in April of 2019, I was visiting my grandpa in the ICU, and my family and I went downstairs to the cafeteria in the hospital, and my best friend Anna was there. Luckily, she witnessed this whole thing. And I broke out into hives. Just the worst hives I've ever had, which, mind you, I've had them before, but not like this ever. And it felt so bad, and I was not freaking out, because it's very hard to get me to freak out when it comes to medical stuff. I was kind of like, I don't know what to do, but luckily I had Benadryl on me because I stay prepared. So I took a Benadryl, and thank God Anna was there. She was able to drive me home, and then I guess I just passed out. And then the next morning it was back, and it was worse, and it hurt, and it was all over my body. I called my parents crying, which it's very hard for me to call my parents crying because I'm in pain. I have a very high pain tolerance. So they kind of figured this is bad. So they took me to the hospital. They were asking me a whole bunch of questions. What are you allergic to? And I told them what I was allergic to. They said, okay, cool. Have you touched that, eaten that, whatever? And I said, no. And it was just it was back to the whole mystery. You know, we don't know what's going on. What is wrong with you? We're gonna fix the symptoms, but we can't fix the source, which has been the narrative of my life. The day after I was in the ER, my grandpa passed away. So I was in the ER, went home, trying to recover. I woke up the next day, went to the ICU. I was there the entire day with my family, with my grandpa as he passed away. For that entire week, I was breaking out, and I was tired, and I was having symptoms that now I know what I was having, but I was feeling like trash, and I was waking up every day, going with my dad, trying to get everything ready for the funeral, trying to host the family and get family dinners and all this other stuff together, and it was hard. And right after the funeral, I crashed, and it was a hard crash. It was so bad. So that week right there is what actually made my parents, my dad was over it, and he was done with me dealing with everything. My dad wanted me to go see the specialist that my mom was visiting, and I was reluctant at first because I'm done. I was done with doctors. Then the day came, I went to the specialist, and this woman, who is amazing, and she's such a blessing, she went through my entire medical history. And I think I was in there talking with her for like 2 hours or an hour and a half or something. It was a ridiculous amount of time, and we were literally just going through my medical history, like what I had been through. She went through absolutely everything, and that took a very long time. We went through everything, and then she ordered blood tests. I had to like have 12 vials filled for my blood tests, which was insane. She found a lot of nutritional things that was wrong with my body, like my vitamin D was non-existent. My ferritin, which is pretty much the gatekeeper for your iron, was non-existent, and a whole bunch of other things. From there, we went through a lot of lifestyle changes, a lot of things that I had to take. She's not very medication heavy unless I absolutely need it, because if I went off just medication, your girl would be loaded all the time. I'll put like a list of my stuff up there somehow. She did a toxic metal test. She did food allergy sensitivities, delayed allergies. She went through everything, and I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of issues with me. It was such a nice feeling knowing that somebody was willing to listen to me, and that they believed me, and that she wasn't so focused on, well, let me fit your symptoms into a box. It was more, okay, let's figure this out. Like, I don't know what's going on with you right now based off what you're telling me, but we're gonna figure it out. So we went through it, and so from April to October, we were just going through it, figuring it out, trying to find things and test for different things that made sense. And if it had been done before, she's like, great, it's been done for, throw it out, we don't need to do that again, because it hasn't worked. And I went, thank you. I started to mention more things that I thought were not that big a deal, that were completely normal to me, that I now know are completely not normal. Mostly because I had a really bad, now that I know what it is, I had a really bad flare-up when I was at a gig. I kind of dredged through that 3 hours of playing, and luckily Anna was there again to just kind of be there if anything went wrong. But I told her about that, and obviously that sparked her concern, and I told her, but that happens all the time, and then that upset her, because she's like, this should not be happening all the time, you should have told me this. She sent me to a cardiologist, who is another amazing person, amazing human being. I talked to him, and I said, hey, these symptoms, which I had told her. You know, I just kind of reiterated what I told her. So he had me stand up and then sit down. He took my blood pressure, he checked my heart rate, he checked a whole bunch of other things, and then he started asking me, like, are you flat-footed, or did you have crowded teeth when you were younger? How stretchy or flexible are you? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? I mean, yes, I can do all of these things, but I don't understand how this is related to anything. After all that, he kind of went, all right, 2 things. Number 1, you have something called POTS. And POTS, P-O-T-S, stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. And I kind of just looked at him and went, I've never heard of that. What is that? And so he explained it to me. There's so much more that goes into it, but in essence, what happens is my veins do not constrict hard enough. So whenever I stand up or I'm up for a long time, the blood in my body and all the fluids actually sink down to my legs, and they pool in my legs, which means less blood, less oxygen, less all that up here and up here, which means that my heart has to compensate and beat faster randomly so that the blood can get pumped up to the rest of my body. And I went, huh, pretty much everything, like a lot of my main issues was that. And so he's like, yeah, you could have immune system problems, which I've had. He's like, you can have so many different things. And I went, cool. But before we went into that, he also said that I could have something called EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Pretty much what that is faulty collagen. So I have too much collagen in my body, which means that my ligaments are extra stretchy, and I can do a lot of things that a lot of people can't do, such as my body dislocates a lot. And I thought that that was just a quirk. I thought that was just something weird that I do. But apparently it's not normal to wake up and put your joints back into the sockets, which is my normal, or have your wrist just pop out of joint when you're doing your makeup. Like it's things that I didn't really think about because they're normal to me. He asked me about all my dislocations, and I'm like, yeah, I dislocate all the time. He's like, where? Like, everywhere. Any joint, really. I can, like, they come out and I just kind of move them back in. He's like, yeah, that's not okay. That should not be happening. And I went, probably right. He was saying that I probably have POTS because of EDS, because, of course, my veins are not going to be able to constrict if they're too stretchy, if they have too much give. And Ehlers-Danlos and POTS go hand in hand, along with MCAS, which I don't know if I have or not. We haven't really gotten that far. Mind you, all of this came to fruition in October of 2019. So it's all pretty new. It's all pretty new, but it was a start. So he gave me some paperwork on EDS, told me to go home, go through my history with my family and see if that would fit. Because there really isn't like a genetic test for the strain, the type of EDS that he thought that I had, which is the hypermobile type, or type 3. There's 13 different types. It's a lot. He had me go home. I told my parents, hi, I have POTS. This is the explanation for this. After looking at the paperwork and looking at the symptoms and looking at the history, and I kind of just fit the bill for it. So we kind of just went with, I probably most likely have EDS. My parents were kind of bummed about it, but I was elated. I was happy. I was so excited that I have a thing. I have something that has a name. It's not a mystery anymore. I know how to, like, we have a starting point. I know where to go from here. I can fix it. I mean, I can't fix it. It's not, you can't cure either one of these. Like, I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life. We'll get into that later. I was happy because I have a thing. And I'm not crazy, and I am not overreacting, and I was right. You know, I'm not normal, and I was completely right. And it was something that I didn't even think about, because I didn't think that my stretchiness and my sickness were the same thing. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to articulate what that feels like. Just the best feeling ever. But as soon as you get that best feeling, it's like, my life is gonna change. From there on, I was sent to another specialist who is a specialist for EDS, and she actually has EDS, and she went through the entire test of EDS, and she's like, yeah, you have EDS for sure. And I went, great. My dad was at my first EDS visit and he got to kind of see how the testing went. He got to learn a little bit with me. I'm still learning a lot about myself, but throughout this whole process I've kind of, I've been way more aware of my body, and I'm not ignoring the weird things that are happening. I've had a lot of lifestyle changes, a lot of meds, and a lot of nutrients, and a lot of IV therapies and things like that. The treatments are helping, the medications are working. Every day is different when it comes to my medications. Not every day is the same. Some days I sleep all day, some days I feel great. So it's, I've learned that I can't have a set routine. I have to change my routine depending on how I feel in the morning. And I've gotten a lot better at that, which I'm glad that I'm able to kind of like catch that. It's a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't. Even the clothing that I wear, I have to be specific about. Like, for example, today, I wear my compression leggings and a short sleeve shirt because today's Monday, which means I get an infusion, which means I currently have a thing in my arm. So like, this is one of my treatments. I get hydration every week. It's 2 liters of fluid, and it gets pumped into my body over the span of 5 hours. Eventually I am probably going to need a port, which I can do a whole video on all my treatments, and this one specifically, if you guys want it. I can show you that. I can show you my morning routine, my night routine, because it is a whole huge, crazy, insane process. But it's such a good one. You know, I'm so grateful that I get to have a process and that I get to have treatments, because there are a lot of people that don't know what they have and they're still figuring it out and they're just living their lives the way that they can. And I'm really blessed that I'm able to have this opportunity to figure it out and be able to try to get better and live my normal. So yeah, this is me, this is my life, this is where I'm at. Let me know if you guys want to kind of follow me on this crazy adventure that is really all coming to fruition in 2020. I can have a video on just POTS, I can have a video on just EDS. This is really just a brief explanation of both. It's not even a really good in-depth explanation on either one. To the people who were reaching out to me on social media whenever I posted like me at a hospital or me in a treatment center, you guys are awesome, and thank you so much for just being concerned about me. I really did not think that anybody would care. Knowing that some of you guys are really thinking about me and keeping me in your prayers is really comforting, and it's really nice, and I really do appreciate you guys. Maybe I'll make more videos about this. Maybe we'll make this like a normal thing. I can put it on my channel, make a whole playlist over there. That's pretty much it. So again, I'm Denali, and I'm sick. But I'm okay with that. If you need more information on EDS and POTS, I will leave links down below. Like I said, this journey has really just begun, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I can also leave links down to the different specialists that I go to so that you can read up more on them. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all your support. I really, 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 truly do appreciate it. And yeah, I love you guys. Thanks. What else do we get? Oh, thank you. Up, up. Luna, come here. Come here. Up, up. Up, up. Jeez, I've been talking on this thing for an hour? Well, I must have had a lot to say. Alright. You want some snacks? Let's go get some snacks. Go get some snacks.